My girlfriend's dad died, so we took in his son. But my evil stepmother wasn't happy and began physically disciplining him, not realizing that we would make her pay. When I met my girlfriend, she was the most beautiful girl I'd ever lay my eyes upon. But I heard that she had dozens of red flags, ones which I really tried to ignore. It was hard. I remember staying up all night, thinking about how this one guy had told me her dad was dying and she was sleeping with every guy on campus to heal. Another time, I heard she was absing her half-baby brother. Meanwhile, my girl best friend told me Maggie was a really sweet girl and I needed to give her a chance. So I did. And it ended up being the best decision of my life. She was an angel because her dad was actually dying, but she was fighting for custody for her half-brother Charlie, so she could raise him. And within months of going out, I already wanted nothing more than to support her during parenthood. But this is the sad part, because there was one red flag that I never mentioned, except it's one of mine, not hers. My stepmother, Harper. She is willing to hurt anyone and anything to get what she wants, including young children. And she hated Charlie, like with her whole heart, because Harper never stopped seeing baby Charlie as a tool Maggie somehow used to baby trap her way into the family. And these accusations only intensified after our biological son was born. So we always try to avoid leaving her alone with them. But last Sunday, when we had an event to attend, we had no other option. So unfortunately, me and Maggie agreed to let Harper and my dad babysit. When we returned, all hell had broken loose. Both kids were trembling and crying in a way I had never heard before, almost as if they were in pain. My dad looked exhausted and was in the midst of trying to calm everyone down. And while my head was spinning, I noticed red on the shirt of my baby. Well, he was lucky my kids were watching, because if not, I would have beat the life out of his good-for-nothing wife Harper until she begged for forgiveness. So instead, I stood there with my fists clenched and a murderous look in my eyes. Immediately, my dad came clean. He told me that Charlie had been crying a lot, so Harper disciplined him the only way she knew how, splitting his lip open. My mouth literally dropped. I couldn't help but fantasize about hanging them both from a tree, especially when I heard the BS explanation of what made her lose her cool in the first place. You see, me and Maggie were due to get married, and while we were gone, Charlie simply informed Harper that him and our son would both be ring bearers in the wedding. And apparently Harper couldn't fathom the idea of letting a 4-year-old boy be happy, because in her eyes, with her clinically insane brain, Charlie wasn't family, which made her lay hands on him. During her explanation, my dad did what any reasonable adult would do in a high-stakes situation. You better not stop her from attending your wedding, son. Don't forget who raised you. At this point, Maggie was walking towards the car with the kids, so I clocked him again and again. And of course, his idiot wife Harper didn't do anything, because she only likes to lay hands on children who are 10 times smaller than her. In between my blows, he tried to declare that he wouldn't attend the wedding without Harper. I just laughed. I only stopped when he gave up on defending his R-worded wife, but after I left, he still tried to hurt me, except not physically. Instead, he convinced half of his relatives that Harper had tickled Charlie a little too hard, and I hit him for no reason. This includes my stepbrother, who blindly supports his mother no matter how many times I explain what actually happened. Maggie and I refuse to back down, though many of my cousins who are skipping the wedding are practically trying to force us into inviting hateful Harper. On the other hand, nearly all of Maggie's family supports our decision, though I had to hold myself back when one of her aunts suggested that Harper could just be lashing out because she doesn't feel welcomed. Honestly, I'm fed up with my relatives enabling Harper's behavior and constantly making excuses for her being abusive. Edit. I realized I accidentally deleted the paragraph where I mentioned that we pressed charges. We took Charlie to his pediatrician the next day and gathered every piece of evidence possible. Not only did we have photos documenting Charlie's facial injury, but through some incredible stroke of luck, we also had nanny cam footage. Some commenters correctly guessed that Harper hadn't been invited to our house, but since my dad hasn't gone anywhere without her in years, we've taken precautions. We never expected her to do something this horrific, but we've always been cautious about trusting her with the kids. The actual physical attack happened off camera, but there's footage of her screaming and Charlie crying both before and after the incident. She now has a child abuse charge on her record. We absolutely refuse to let her get away with this. Edit 2. The pediatrician visit was the day after the incident. He was already seeing a counselor. Maggie was understandably traumatized when her dad and stepmom died and worried about how it might affect Charlie, and he'll continue treatment. We've been giving him extra hugs and attention. He's still upset, but already doing much better. Update. Entitled, Stepmom got herself banned from my wedding. I want to thank everyone who took time to read and comment on my previous post. It's been an incredibly difficult week, but it means a lot knowing that people care. While I haven't been able to reply to every comment, I'll address some in this update, which might get lengthy. First, Maggie and I are going completely no contact with my dad and Harper. We haven't spoken to either since the incident, and I don't plan to initiate contact. Any necessary communication is being handled through my younger sister. She completely supports us, but will maintain minimal contact with dad for now. I've decided to adopt Maggie's approach to handling relationships with people she cares about. Forgive what's genuinely apologized for, but never forget. Essentially, if dad or Harper ever truly understand what they did wrong and sincerely apologize, we might forgive them, albeit reluctantly. But we'll never ignore or let them forget what they did to our family. For the foreseeable future, neither will be allowed near Charlie, our baby, or any future children we might have, even if we do eventually forgive them. Regarding the rest of my family, many comments suggested posting pictures of Charlie's injury and the nanny cam footage. I'm not very active on social media, but even if I were, I'm uncomfortable exposing my injured preschooler like that, especially knowing that nothing truly disappears from the internet. I've also decided against sharing the pictures with extended family, unless absolutely necessary. It's worth mentioning that while my family adores my dad, most aren't particularly fond of Harper. She had 2 failed marriages before meeting my father. Her first marriage produced my stepbrother, and my dad actually cheated on his girlfriend at the time to be with her. My family loved that girlfriend and disliked Harper from the start. Beyond being controlling and manipulative from day one, she's constantly tried to force her way into the family matriarch role by any means possible. Taking over planning duties for every family event was her favorite method because it garnered attention and compliments. I hated these parties growing up primarily because she always found ways to make everything about herself, including Christmas and my sisters and my birthdays. Most relatives felt neutral about the situation, but nobody genuinely liked her. With Charlie, things were different. Most of my relatives didn't meet him until COVID restrictions eased when he was about 2. He's an incredibly bright and lovable kid, and since there weren't many small children in the family, everyone immediately adored him. I suspect Harper resented how easily Maggie and Charlie were accepted by my family compared to her own experience, which fueled her animosity toward them both, though I can't confirm that theory. Harper was also furious about having absolutely no involvement in our wedding party. She tried pressuring us to let her officiate. We'd already asked one of Maggie's best friends a year ago to make my stepbrother my best man. He wasn't interested, and I'd already chosen my best friend. And to include her niece as our flower girl, we promised that role to Maggie's 3-year-old niece, plus Harper's niece is 15 and barely knows us. She even tried convincing us to have my dad walk Maggie down the aisle since her father passed away, but Maggie's oldest brother had already been chosen for that honor. Harper was clearly disappointed that my family wasn't as involved in the wedding as Maggie's, and kept making comments about how this would never happen if they'd put her in charge. That said, nothing can excuse being so cruel to a child, especially if it stems from the petty jealousy I suspect. Since I haven't spoken with my father, my sister has kept me updated. I've learned that the story my dad and Harper told the rest of the family completely omits Charlie's injury and the family abuse charges. Their version suggests that Maggie and I banned them simply because we got annoyed with Harper and decided to punish my dad as well. Since most relatives already dislike Harper, explaining what actually happened wasn't difficult, and most family members I actually wanted at the wedding have apologized and are now criticizing my dad too. Those who didn't believe us or claimed we overreacted have been informed they're no longer welcome in our home. These are mostly people from my dad's generation, so I'm not surprised. But realizing they're so biased they protect a woman they dislike after she hurt a child, just to appease my dad, confirms I don't need them in my life. My stepbrother remains in denial. He refuses to believe his mother would harm a child, despite all our evidence. I understand his position to some extent. I love my mom too, but that doesn't excuse his willful blindness. So he's banned as well. It's unfortunate because we were close growing up, but I don't regret the decision. Besides, Maggie has 3 siblings besides Charlie, an older brother, a twin brother, and a younger sister. And I'm closer to them now than I ever was to my stepbrother. Maggie's family is furious about what happened and has been incredibly supportive. Her maternal relatives essentially adopted Charlie after she gained custody, and they've called frequently to check on him. We've managed to save some money with all the uninvited guests, and we're using it to help Maggie's cousin who lives abroad and was previously unable to attend. We're paying for her plane ticket. Charlie is doing much better and almost back to his usual cheerful self. The split lip was shallow and is healing gradually, though it didn't require stitches. We sat him down recently and explained that my dad and Harper wouldn't be around anymore. He really liked my dad, but understands that he and Harper are inseparable. He's clearly afraid of her, but we're doing everything possible to make him feel secure. Maggie and I have repeatedly assured him that he is family. We love him, and nothing will ever change that. I'm not overly concerned about Dad or Harper attempting to crash the wedding, but we've alerted the venue and provided photos just in case. Better safe than sorry. Some people pointed out Harper's hypocrisy in claiming Charlie isn't family. I completely agree, for obvious reasons. Her primary excuse for her behavior has always been that she doesn't feel welcomed by my family. Dad has guilted me into participating in her events by reminding me of this for as long as I can remember. The fact that he continues making excuses for her without recognizing this is essentially the pot calling the kettle black, except Charlie actually is family, has helped me accept that while I'll always love my dad, it's not healthy or safe for my family to be around him anymore. It hurts knowing my son won't have his only remaining biological grandfather in his life, but he has 2 amazing step-grandfathers to compensate. For now, I'm sad, but satisfied with how things have developed. I try not to complain about my life. It's chaotic but beautiful. I adore my fiancé, I love my children, and I'm fortunate enough to love my job. We're happy, and I won't let anyone ruin that. To those annoyed by my censorship in the original post, when AITA didn't work out, Maggie suggested making the writing less explicit. I'm still new to Reddit and might have overdone it. Hopefully this is my final update on this situation, but I'll keep you posted if anything changes. Again, thank you for all your support and kind words. Update 1. I'll start by disappointing many of you. We're accepting that Harper will likely get nothing more than a slap on the wrist for what she did. Maggie and I are discussing next steps with our lawyer, but we're still uncertain about how to proceed. It's too early to make definitive plans anyway, so we're trying not to get ahead of ourselves. The good news is that we're initiating the process for a restraining order against Harper. We're using the same evidence we gathered after the incident, including the nanny cam footage and photos of Charlie, and focusing on that for now. I still haven't spoken with my father. My sister maintains limited contact, but is seriously considering cutting ties with him completely. Since she's the only one from my side still communicating with him, he constantly asks her about me and whether I've calmed down yet. According to her, he's annoyed that half his family refuses to speak to him, but still doesn't seem to grasp why. I've told my sister she doesn't need to keep acting as an intermediary between us. I never asked her to do this, and it's clearly taking a toll on her, but she insists she'll stop when it feels right. To be absolutely clear, there's no question about whether Harper attacked Charlie. Not only did Charlie tell us immediately when we got home, but my father confirmed it in his misguided attempt to defend her behavior. He never tried to hide it from us. Providing Charlie with an ice pack is literally the only positive thing I can say about his response. Meanwhile, Harper was too busy screaming about what a whining brat Charlie was being to deny what she'd done. For those who guessed Harper is younger than my dad, you win an invisible cookie. She's also 5 years younger than his previous girlfriend. They got together when I was around 15. My stepbrother is only a month older than me. Harper turns 50 later this year. She had him at 21 and married his father a year later. Both children are doing relatively well. Charlie's back to running around the house in his Superman costume whenever he's not occupied with something else. He has had a few nightmares this past week and is asked to sleep in our bed twice. We don't mention my father around him, and he's continuing to see his counselor. Our 14-month-old has learned 2 new words, hi and bye, and Charlie is trying to teach him to say his name. Maggie's sister, who moved away for college, is visiting for a few days to celebrate her 21st birthday later this month. Charlie's excited to see her, and Maggie's looking forward to having drinks with her sister. Can't say I blame her. We're hoping her presence will lift everyone's spirits. I'm struggling emotionally, and so is Maggie. She typically tries to keep negative emotions to herself, but she cried herself to sleep almost every night the week after the incident. It breaks my heart seeing her like this, and I can't help feeling responsible. Part of me knows I couldn't have predicted Harper would do something this extreme, but that doesn't change anything. I allowed my father near my children unsupervised, knowing Harper would likely accompany him. This is the most guilt I've ever experienced, and I don't think I'll ever fully forgive myself. Maggie has been improving lately and is encouraging me to see a therapist. Apart from briefly seeing a psychiatrist when I was younger, I've never done therapy before, but now seems like an appropriate time to try. I was surprised by messages from people urging me to forgive my father and Harper and to re-invite them to the wedding. That's absolutely not happening. In fact, I'll never forgive Harper. My dad is now a huge maybe, but I'll never understand or forget what she did. Although the wedding is far from our primary concern right now, we're not postponing it. We considered rescheduling, but realized our chosen date is essentially the only one that works for our guests. We have password protection with all our vendors and have given clear instructions that they should only communicate with us directly. Maggie's family is larger and closer knit, which explains why they're more involved in the wedding than mine, but I do have family participating. My sister is a bridesmaid, 2 of my cousins are groomsmen, and my mom will walk down the aisle with the wedding party. Going through this ordeal with Maggie has deepened my understanding of how much I love her. I couldn't ask for a better partner to build a family with, and I have no idea what I'd do without her. This crisis hasn't torn us apart, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. I probably won't update again until after the wedding, unless something significant happens. Until then, as always, best wishes to everyone. Update 2. I hadn't planned on updating before the wedding, but something major happened. The good news, we got the restraining order. The bad news, Maggie and I had to face both Harper and my father at the court hearing, our first time seeing them since we kicked them out of our house over a month ago. Neither of us was looking forward to it. We left the kids with Maggie's brother and sister-in-law, so at least Charlie didn't have to see them. The hearing itself proceeded much faster than I anticipated. I'll give credit where it's due. My father was at least smart enough to realize they had no chance of winning. The evidence against them was overwhelming. Not only did we have the nanny cam footage, Charlie's photos and medical records, but my sister had also collected every text and email Harper had sent her and other family members about the incident. Since Harper hates phone calls, there were many written communications. They didn't even bother hiring an attorney for the hearing. The judge granted us a protection order against Harper. She's now prohibited from coming within 500 feet of us or our property. We're changing all our locks this week, and I'm considering changing my phone number as well. I must admit, leaving the courthouse was the safest I've felt since this nightmare began. Maggie nearly broke into tears of relief when we reached our car. We picked up the kids and celebrated at McDonald's with my brother-in-law and his family. Hours later, my father called. The order doesn't extend to him, so he's still able to contact me. The kids and Maggie were in bed, so I answered. While I didn't expect a sudden change of heart or apology, I decided to give him one final chance. He attempted some awkward small talk, but I told him to get to the point. He asked if the restraining order was truly necessary. I stated very clearly that Harper would never come near Maggie or my children again, and I was glad to have a formal order confirming that. Every excuse he offered for Harper was easily dismissed, but she only hit him once. Yep, and that's enough for me. The kids need their grandma. She's not their grandma. My mom is. She's my wife. You need to respect her. She attacked Charlie. She disrespected my family in my own house. I don't owe her anything, least of all my respect. He then launched into a rant about family, how Harper was a godsend, and everything she'd supposedly done for me and my sister since entering our lives. I countered by listing every instance I could recall of her lying, overstepping boundaries, or behaving irrationally around me, my sister, or anyone else in our family. I referenced both my childhood and adult experiences. Examples included her attempts to hijack our significant milestones, recently our wedding plans, our son's birth, Maggie's baby shower, and my sister's college graduation, her obsession with presenting a perfect family image, and her disgusting attitude toward Charlie. I also mentioned her habit of going through my sister's and my belongings when we were younger, a seemingly trivial issue compared to everything else. But this behavior continued until my sister moved out just 3 months ago. We suspect Harper discovered Maggie's wedding dress appointments by reading my sister's planner while she was out. Some memories I mentioned are too complex to fully explain here, but they reinforced that Harper means nothing to me. My father tried using the "she doesn't feel included" excuse again, but I shut him down. I told him he had the opportunity to protect his grandchildren, but chose his monstrous wife instead, which is enough for me to want nothing to do with him. I hung up without saying goodbye. My sister later told me he called her afterward, and she informed him she was also going no contact. I think we're both beginning to accept that our father won't change. It's painful, but he's made his priorities clear, and his children and grandchildren aren't among them. For now, that's all. Now that these memories are fresh in my mind, I'm considering sharing some of the stories I reminded my father about, but that will take time. Until then, as always, best wishes to everyone. Update 3. I mentioned previously that I was considering sharing some stories from before we finally got a restraining order against Harper and went no contact with my dad. While there are many worth telling, I'll start with one of my sister's favorites. Maggie discovered she was pregnant in June 2021, and we announced it to our immediate families that August. Initially, Harper showed zero interest in our baby. Not that I expected much from someone whose reaction to our pregnancy announcement was to ask Maggie if she was sure it was mine. Even my dad criticized her for that comment, but she barely acknowledged we were expecting. Instead, she focused on my stepbrother, who was also engaged and would supposedly give her beautiful grandbabies soon. No complaints from us. We didn't want her involved anyway. Planning our baby shower was complicated. Both Maggie and I had to work until the holidays, and I wanted to participate in the planning. With a February 2022 due date, we decided early January would be ideal. We enlisted 2 planners, my sister Honor and Maggie's best friend Amber. Maggie and I are generally laid-back people. We didn't want an extravagant party or to spend excessively. We were saving for both the baby and our wedding. We decided early on that the shower would be co-ed, would need to be indoors, January weather, and settled on a guest list of about 25 people plus a dozen children. We developed the concept of a pizza party. Maggie, Charlie, and I have had weekly homemade pizza nights since I moved in, and we thought incorporating that into the shower would be fun. Amber found a venue with a pizza oven, and Honor figured out ways to integrate traditional baby shower elements into the theme. The resulting plans were fantastic. Make your own pizzas, non-alcoholic beverages, and plain bodysuits for kids to customize. Amber and Honor blended pizza decor with baby items and found pizza-shaped treats. Though it might have seemed like an unusual combination, we loved it. Most planning was completed by mid-November. Later that month, my stepbrother's fiancée left him for her ex. They'd been together for 4 years, and the breakup was both sudden and devastating for him. Harper then realized her dream grandchildren would take longer to arrive than anticipated. Naturally, without her son's milestones to obsess over, she redirected her attention to mine. Suddenly, Harper transformed from disinterested relative to enthusiastic grandmother-to-be. Facebook posts, tacky, promoted to Nana shirts, the works. Initially, we were too busy with work and holiday preparations to worry about the shift, but she quickly began pestering us about planning the baby shower and adding a gender reveal party. We firmly rejected the gender reveal idea. No offense to those who enjoy them. They're just not our style. Plus, we decided to wait until birth to learn the sex. Harper tried to persuade us to find out and tell her as a Christmas present, but we refused. We also declined her offer to plan the baby shower. She complained to my father, who pressured Honor into letting Harper help with the plans. Since Honor was still living with them, she had little choice. Honor contacted Amber, and they met Harper for coffee. Though I wasn't present, Honor later described what happened. Before they could even mention their plans, Harper began discussing hers. According to Honor, she pulled out a surprisingly thick binder, complete with "Oh Baby" on the cover, colorful tabs, and fabric samples, and flipped to the shower section. Though shorter than other sections, it still contained extensive plans for her baby shower concept. Honor sent me photos, and wow, I'll give Harper credit. It looked like the most Instagram-worthy baby shower imaginable. However, it was also impractical and obviously expensive. There were balloons everywhere, oversized teddy bears, giant alphabet blocks, and cringe-worthy signage. Harper prioritized aesthetics over comfort, with uncomfortable seating arrangements and elaborate food ideas that weren't even pregnancy appropriate. Many contained soft cheeses Maggie couldn't eat. The color scheme consisted of 3 shades of pink with gold accents. We'd have been fine with a pink-themed shower if it offered some variety, but Harper's vision resembled Barbie throwing up all over Hello Kitty's birthday party. When Amber reminded her we didn't know the baby's sex, Harper claimed she just knew it was a girl. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. Harper also insisted on an all-female, child-free gathering with professional catering and alcohol. She'd prepared a guest suggestion list featuring some of her closest friends, neither Maggie's nor my mother was included, and planned games nobody wanted to play. Essentially, the only thing everyone could agree on was holding the party indoors. Honor and Amber weren't given a chance to present their plans until Harper finished. Once they could, they explained that while they might incorporate some of Harper's ideas, they'd already finalized the pizza theme. She protested, but Honor pointed out they were being generous to even offer that compromise, since the shower was only a month away and we'd already approved their plans. Harper called me trying to change their minds, but I simply echoed their position. My dad learned he couldn't attend the shower, so he no longer cared about the planning. As the holidays approached, the subject was dropped. Harper seemed to accept the pizza party. Amber managed to incorporate some pink decorations with matching blue items, and even added one of the giant teddy bears Harper had wanted. Fast forward to the week before the shower. Maggie was nearly 8 months pregnant. Everything had been purchased, all guests had RSVP'd, and preparations were complete. The shower was scheduled for 7 p.m. Harper offered to arrive at the venue early to set up, and Honor agreed, mostly because she knew Harper would complain if she didn't get to do anything. The venue even allowed them to drop off decorations beforehand. Maggie and I promised to arrive by 6 p.m. 2 days before the shower, however, the venue called Amber. They explained that Harper had dropped off several large, heavy boxes of what she called a little surprise. She'd informed them she planned to arrive at 3:30 p.m. to begin setting up, but they were calling to clarify that the venue was only booked from 4 p.m. onward. Apparently, Harper nearly had a tantrum when told this. Since all the decorations were still at Amber's home, she called Honor to check if they'd left anything with Harper. Thankfully, my sister is both clever and accustomed to Harper's antics, so she visited the venue the next day and asked to examine Harper's boxes. Honor told me she wasn't surprised by their contents, but was still shocked by Harper's audacity. All the boxes contained pink, frilly decorations, seemingly the exact items Harper had initially shown Honor and Amber. Honor realized Harper intended to arrive early to set up her version of the baby shower and essentially force us to celebrate in her pink nightmare. She called Amber to determine their next steps. Neither could arrive at 4 p.m., making it nearly inevitable that Harper would get her way. The obvious solution was disposing of everything, but Honor devised a better plan. That night, they called Maggie and me. Hey, want to destroy a party in 2 hours? Honor returned home and invited Harper to accompany her to a salon, fabricating a story about having coupons. Harper agreed, and they planned to go immediately after she finished preparing the baby shower. At 4 p.m. the next day, Harper arrived at the venue. By 5 p.m., she had completed the setup. I'll admit, she works quickly, and promptly left to meet Honor at the salon. Once they were together, Honor texted Amber that the coast was clear. Maggie, Amber, and I then hurried to the venue. Sure enough, Harper had arranged her version of the party. To keep this shorter, I won't describe it in detail, but it was so overwhelmingly pink, it nearly made Maggie nauseous. For the next 2 hours, Honor distracted Harper at the salon, while the three of us swiftly dismantled every decoration Harper had installed and replaced them with our pizza party setup. We arranged the activities, prepared the tables, and returned every pink item to Harper's boxes. It was actually quite enjoyable. We finished just minutes before the shower began. Several guests arrived before Harper, so I barely saw her all evening. Honor told me that when they arrived, Harper's jaw dropped as she tried to comprehend what had happened to all her pink decorations. My sister simply smiled, whispered, "Nice try," in her ear, and went to help Charlie customize a bodysuit. Overall, the baby shower was everything we'd hoped for. Our friends attended, everyone had fun, and there was plenty of pizza. I hardly cared that Harper spent the entire party sulking in a corner. Amber did catch her attempting to place small pink bows on the cupcakes, but quickly shut that down. Honor and Amber deserve full credit for saving the day. Harper's interest in our baby rapidly diminished afterward. She stopped wearing her Nana shirts, didn't visit us at the hospital when he was born, and refused to acknowledge he was a boy until meeting him weeks later. Until we went no contact, she was a grandmother in name only. I couldn't be more grateful my son will never truly know her. Final update. Hey everyone, I've been away from Reddit for several months due to work commitments, but many people have been messaging me about my stepbrother, so I wanted to provide a brief update. I've been busy and exhausted lately, so I might omit some details. Feel free to ask questions. I first met with my stepbrother for coffee in August. He'd had a confrontation with Harper where the restraining order came up. She had lied to him about certain details, claiming Charlie had been tormenting our baby, bad-mouthing Maggie, and more. But this time, he managed to pressure her into revealing the truth. My stepbrother began reevaluating his relationship with his mother. After discussing the situation with his therapist and friends, as well as reflecting on how she raised him, he finally accepted that I hadn't exaggerated about what she did to Charlie. He wanted to reach out back in June, but didn't want to distract Maggie and me from our wedding. Over the past 4 months, my stepbrother and I have been working to rebuild our relationship. We've been meeting regularly for coffee or lunch to discuss his mother and how her actions affected our lives and my children. Maggie started joining us in October, and the kids saw him again for the first time 2 weeks ago. Things were initially awkward between us, but we're in a good place now. He's also reconnecting with my sister. In early November, he completely cut contact with Harper. Maggie and the kids are doing wonderfully. Charlie turned 5 in September, and our baby will be 2, which is hard to believe, in early February. We're spending the holidays with Maggie's family in Brazil, while my stepbrother stays with his girlfriend. Life is good. That's all for now. I'll check in if anything significant happens. Happy holidays, everyone, and thank you for all your support throughout this journey.